origins. Racism is also best understood through the context in which it occurs, whether one labels it background context or relevant factor or something else. And this background context is quite ugly. I will not take the court through all the statements made by President Aliyev that were raised by Mr. Ahi on Wednesday, which are, after all, a mere fraction of our evidence. But in our view, those statements do demonstrate racial animus, or, at a minimum for this jurisdictional phase, are capable of being so read. For example, on Wednesday, Azerbaijan argued that President Aliyev's statement, "Our main enemies are Armenians of the world," is not even capable of showing racial animus. Azerbaijan insists this phrase refers benignly to Azerbaijan's detractors, or those who don't like Azerbaijan. But the phrase Armenians of the world certainly is not referring to a particular country, or to a particular country's leadership, or to its army. The phrase clearly is referring to an entire ethnic group, wherever in the world that group may be found, which includes in Azerbaijan itself. And the phrase is saying that those ethnic Armenians are our main enemies. It was equally interesting seeing counsel for Azerbaijan trying to explain away President Aliyev's references to chasing people like dogs. Here, too, the assertion this week is that dogs can only be understood as referring to the leaders of Armenia or of Nagorno-Karabakh, even though last year Azerbaijan conceded in its written objections that the term has a possible ethnic dimension. In any event, to sustain this week's explanation, Azerbaijan proudly displayed a BBC interview with President Aliyev. But notice the observation made by the reporter before President Aliyev responds. The BBC reporter observes, "You have very recently said," and I am quoting you here, "if they do not leave, we will chase them like dogs." Now that's hardly the kind of statement that would make people feel safe. Clearly, the interviewer did not think that dogs was just a clever way of referring to the leaders of Armenia or of Nagorno-Karabakh. Moreover, the reporter then observed, and I quote, "There is institutionalized messaging against the Armenians which takes place here as a part of the state dialogue. People have been primed to have hatred for the other side. Are you actually expecting them to be able to coexist?" End of quote. So while Azerbaijan has its own peculiar way of interpreting what President Aliyev means when he says, "we will chase them like dogs," that's not what anyone else is hearing. And it is notable the points we raised on Tuesday that even Mr. Ahi dared not touch. He dared not touch Azerbaijan's parliamentary committee, referring to Armenia and the Armenian diaspora as a cancerous tumor of Europe. He dared not touch Azerbaijan's senior official comparing Armenians to the Jews of the Holocaust, whom Azerbaijan seeks to eliminate He dared not touch the grotesque mannequins placed in and then hastily removed from Azerbaijan's military trophy park. He dared not touch Azerbaijan's disinfection stamps, and so on. Azerbaijan's co-agent represented to the court on Wednesday that the patch we noted on Tuesday, which says Armenian don't run, is not worn by Azerbaijan soldiers. That's the first time we've heard such a denial, notwithstanding our having raised this patch as being worn by Azerbaijan soldiers in both our January 2023 memorial and at the October 2023 provisional measures hearing. Azerbaijan's denial happens to be inconsistent with media reports and think tank reports, in addition to social media postings, all of which also say it is a patch worn by an Azerbaijani soldier.